Hello, and welcome back to the Mead Wargaming Warhammer podcast. I'm your guest host for today, John, and today I'm being joined by someone very special, but familiar to you all, our usual host, Jay.
And he got the finger in the right direction. Thanks, guys.
I know, right? We were practicing.
Yeah, you practice that, I just wing it.
Yep, absolutely. So yes, Jay, you are joining us for today on our final chapter in our Forging the Narrative series. Over the last few episodes, we've had the opportunity to explore each of our personal laws around the Mead Wargaming's team's armies for Legions. But today, in the hot seat for it, it is Jay's turn. And it is by far no ordinary force that Jay's bringing. It's an army that's formed of an entire superfaction, allies, 4 fully developed allies, developed and thematically intertwined together. We're going to be delving into the House Dracaryn, the Aetherion Auxilia, the Titan Legio Invictorum, and the covert Alpha Legion cells that tie them all together. Expect political intrigue, forbidden psychers, ancient beasts, and division, a faction quietly building towards the independence within the Imperium itself. Did I get all of your names correctly there?
You did, well done.
So yes. On today's one, I'm going to have the opportunity to be interviewing Jay and asking some questions about the army, which he definitely hasn't written for me to ask. So, but it would be weird if you had to interview yourself, I suppose. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you trust me with this opportunity.
Well, you are probably the easiest to the eye and the voice of all of us.
Jamie, the rumours are going to go places if this continues. Right. On that note, and to get us hopefully here quicker than last time, shall we go into our Tankard Talk? Because I think we've got a little bit to talk about.
We have got a little bit to talk about,
which is going to be a little bit of a weird one today because we don't. Yeah, we've got some shared ideas and some shared things, and some stuff to talk about in old Tankard Talk. So
you certainly do.
Let's head on over to the Tankard Talk, and I'll see you there.
See you there.
And welcome back, everyone, to our Tankard Talk section. We're going to be having a look through some of the stuff that we've been getting up to in the last couple of weeks, actually.
To sort of explain how this is going to work, obviously, by the time this video goes out, it will have been about a month since I've moved and the Mead Hall Studios changed position. We've got a couple of videos that are going to be coming out in it before this one, and you will see some changes take place in the background. And yeah, so we're in a position at the moment where we've actually, currently, as of this recording, not actually done a lot together, and most of us have been very busy, like moving houses and stuff like that. So there's not been a massive amount of hobby going on, but that doesn't mean we haven't got anything to show for ourselves.
No, and it's definitely been a crunch period, but there's also been a few busy weekends which have been hobby-related for me, but not in the sense of being able to craft anything. Or get any paint on stuff, but yeah.
Shall we have a look then?
Let's have a look. Let's get to some pictures.
Okay, so we're gonna start with these, and then we'll come up to the more interesting stuff afterwards.
Cool. I think they're interesting because I put them together. But
so
I will explain.
Not what I was trying to say.
We'll explain very quickly. So, what you've got here is a bunch of things that I printed out, a bunch of little figures that I printed out. I had an opportunity over the last weekend, which will entirely date this video, to go to UK Games Expo, and it was a lovely time. Highly recommend. But one of the things I picked up there was a little game called Kill Sample Process, which is a game made by Wild Designs, who also made the games called Forbidden Psalms. Long story short, it's a little cyberpunk skirmish game. You build a team of 5 guys, and it is intended to be nobody's going to make it out, but you might complete the mission that you were sent off to go and do. You're meant to be progressing kind of across like a narrative campaign. It's very cyberpunk. It's very fast. It does use a D20 system. I'll keep the rules very, very. I'm not going to go into all the rules. One thing that I read, which I feel like you'll appreciate, because it's a D20 system, one of the weapons is a grenade. When you roll it, you can call a number on a d20. If it is that number, the grenade lands in the target's mouth. Which is a rule that I'm going to try every time.
You would, wouldn't you? Just for that one time that you get it right.
Because that one time you get it right, it's going to be the funniest thing.
I feel like those rules need to be given to orcs somehow.
Some are so good. But yes, these ones are actually. It was also a fun little experiment. Every one of these files were free. They're either promo models or designers that put stuff out for free, and even the bases, they're little textured, like cyberpunky style bases, all for free. So it was also like a nice little experiment to see what can I build something entirely for free. So yes, the answer is yes.
Very cool.
So yeah,
nice.
This was a little bigger. This is going to be a little string of stuff here.
I'm going to hazard a guess that this is meant to be a tracked version of a repulsor.
No, this is a predator.
Oh, this is actually going to be a predator.
This is a predator, but I had a very specific goal in mind when I wanted to get a predator together, because this isn't just a predator. If we go to the next one, this is a rhino, and it is also a vindicator. And when I get the final bits together, it's also...
That's a razorback.
Sorry, no, a razorback. It can also be a vindicator.
Okay.
The entire thing is designed to be entirely magnetized. It's a really, really nice little set where you can just pop literally the front part of it comes off, so you can put on the vindicator cannon. You can swap out the top part. You can swap out the barrel on the predator. This has also been all a bit of I like the old edition. the edition that I never got to play, but apparently I should have played because it's really fun.
Oh yes, that is probably a topic for a video one day.
Absolutely not today.
Not today. No, the only thing I'm going to point out here, the reason why I said that might be a repulsor proxy is because that cannon is very similar from my memory of what the repulsor cannon looks like. It's nothing. It's chunkier than the traditional predator cannon.
It is very much chunkier than the traditional predator cannon, but it does look cool, so I was like, yeah, slap that one on. It came with the bowl upgrades as well, so I could do the heavy flamer or the assault cannon. But
very cool.
Not my faction. But there's nothing to say I can't do a little bit of souping in.
Again, if you did use as a proxy repulsor, I believe they do have rotor cannons as an option.
They do indeed.
Or is that the no, not executioner. What's the little one? Gladiator.
The gladiator. The gladiator has it.
Yeah. So
the repulsor can take one on top.
To be fair, that would probably proxy quite well as a gladiator.
It's a little small. The gladiator's the impulsor is actually way bigger than you think it is.
I mean, I've seen it as well. I mean, it is bigger than a predator, but the repulsor is significantly bigger than the gladiator.
Oh yeah, the repulsor's huge.
So I was thinking you probably could get away with using it as a gladiator.
Yeah.
Rules-wise.
It just rules-wise, yeah. But yeah.
Okay, very cool. I like that. I'd like to say we're finished, but you've been quite productive in terms of building new things.
Yes, I have been. I'm trying to remember what's next. Yes. I will be entirely honest. This was just some fun. It was a cool little set that I saw. I actually went to UK Games Expo with the sole purpose of trying to find a 28mm scale mech game. I did not find it. I don't know whether that was because it wasn't there or because the place was just absolutely rammed. I had to go at Infinity as a game, which is quite an interesting little skirmish game, and again, probably a topic for another day when we want to go into some alternative games systems. But these guys are the best thing about them. Actually, style-wise, big fan. Brian, you're a fan of the Armored Core kind of styled mechs. But they are entirely designed from the ground up to be magnetic compatible. So they come with all the holes ready to go. The heads are magnetic, the torso is magnetic, the arms are magnetic, the shoulder bits on the back are magnetic. That little minigun comes in 2 parts with space to do the magnet in between. So I was just having great fun, just being like popping little bits off and on. And those are going to sit there. They're probably going to get the prime coat. And then when I'm like, I don't want to paint my usual stuff, I can pick up one of those and just start slapping some paint on them. So
you're never short of tangent projects, are you?
I'm never short of tangent projects. I need tangent projects because I can't keep my mind on any one thing, apparently. There's probably some undiagnosed thing there that I should examine at some point, but that's not for today.
Yeah, as long as you're functioning, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is yet more, and this is something we've seen before, but this is a bit more close up and primed compared to last time.
Yeah, they are. They are indeed close up and primed. Because they are on the painting table. I couldn't remember whether I had actually shown these ones before, but I figured a slightly nicer picture. And our joint plans around a tiny greenskin army.
Yeah, we're going to do it. It's going to be a very slow process, but we will do it.
I have been keeping my eyes to the cults. Not sure that's right. I picked up found today a nice little Badruk one.
Oh.
And you're going to love this, a flying orc gunboat.
I'm in. Done.
Pirate gunboat.
Oh, yes. Let's do it.
To go with your Badruk. And I was like, it's literally what it is. It says on the tin, it is a boat with guns that flies. And I was like, this is what Jamie needs in his life. That's the answer.
Yep, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I figured it wouldn't be. I was like, This will be made. This will arrive.
I mean, the basing alone, I could do with that.
So much fun, so much fun. And whatever rules it should have, I feel like orcs should just be built off of random roll tables for everything.
I mean, we probably will write our own rules. I know Joe did mention that there is an orc community project already on the go, but depending on how it works, we may pilfer it or write our own.
Yeah, make modifications, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Very nice. I'm very much looking forward to seeing this painted and get my hands on it.
Yes, it's on my list, as is many things.
Certainly. What else we got here? Ooh.
My ongoing current Black Templars project.
That is, which is not a traditional Redemptor.
It is by far not a traditional Redemptor, but I know how much you don't like the Box Naught.
I hate the Box Naught.
And I love the Box Naught, but I feel like this is a nice meeting in the middle of the two.
I honestly have to say, this version of a Box Naught looks a little bit more functional to me, which is my biggest issue with the Box Naught. It just looks so top-heavy, it looks ridiculous.
So yeah, this is a chunkier boy, one might say.
Yeah. This is much more acceptable to my mind.
Yeah, with some fun paints that have gone on here. So I won't get. Most of it has been done kind of, I'd say, standard affair. The small exceptions, the plasma coils there, were done using an Army Painter speed paint. Mm-hmm. It's their one that is called literally no, actually, it's their Fanatic one. It's their new one, which is called Plasma Coil, specifically designed, unsurprisingly, for plasma coils, that kind of effect. They glow under UV.
Oh, really?
So that is, if I get a UV light and shine it on those plasma coils, they literally glow. The other thing is, and I appreciate it's not immediately going to be obvious, and it links into something that we're going to have a look at, I'm going to talk about in a moment. The shield in the center there was done using the new AK Interactive paint pens.
That's very cool.
And that was one coat over black.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I've got to say to that.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Now, admittedly, there is still some little kind of touch-ups that I need to do on it, but that was that white in that on that the one in the center of the kind of coffin bit. That was one coat of their dirty white from the pen, and then a wash of skeleton horde like around the outside to basically give it that kind of like weathered effect. And I'm going to go back in with the white again to basically brighten up the center and leave the outside looking dirty.
That is very cool. There's one thing I'm just going to have to quickly mention though. You mentioned that the plasma cores glow under UV. Yeah.
Mm.
This this is a resin printed model, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah. I'm not going to do it all the time. Just occasionally, just look, it glows.
Yeah, so anyone who doesn't know, and to be fair, I've not tested this, but from the research I've done into the way the photocure resins respond to UV, even post-curing and even post-paint, is that they continue to react with UV light. So even though it's painted, and in theory you'd imagine obviously that's going to protect it, I've been told it doesn't, and I haven't tested the theory, but apparently what will happen is as you continue to apply that light to a resin model, they become more and more brittle and they break. Which is also why this room is entirely blacked out, because there's a lot of resin products in here almost all times.
I was going to say, thankfully, the room that I'm in, there is a decent set of curtains, but it never really gets any direct sunlight. So it's at least safe from that perspective. But yes, there is that issue, but it's not going to be like sat under a UV for the entire time that I'm going to have it. No.
It's just fine. I just thought it's worth mentioning for those.
It is very much worth mentioning. Yeah, that's a very fair point. Yeah.
So I would advise anyone who prints their own models with UV cured resins, probably don't go around thinking you can just use glow in the dark paints, because they probably won't last very long if you're intending to use them in that way. Yeah,
don't sit down to that. Although it would be an interesting experiment.
Would be interesting. Maybe not on that one though.
No, I'm quite fond of that one. Although the arm does detach, at the elbow, so it's not impossible to replace.
No,
just would be a pain to replace.
Yeah, and we all know what you're like with painting stuff you have to paint.
Yeah, that's true. I can't do it. Impossible.
You much rather paint the tangents than the main thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going on here? These look like partially finished products.
These are indeed partially finished projects, not by me.
Oh, not by you.
There is a local game shop that we are both aware of in our local area, and I like to go in there. They've actually just recently had a big refitting, and in the process of that, they've massively expanded their Warhammer collection. I mean, by a significant margin. It's now, whereas it was like a corner of the shop before, they've been like, here is an aisle dedicated to it.
Okay.
And they apparently got a whole load of models in that they were basically for their pre-owned for their big launch. I missed that because apparently there were literally people queuing up for the amount of stuff they had in those cabinets. I don't know what there was, but apparently there was some good stuff. There was good stuff there today, actually. There was a full Land Raider for 40 quid. So they had obviously this load of stock in there, clearly. They sold a load of stuff, but I like to go and have a look around, see what's in their pre-owned cabinet, and I spied these two just sat on the bottom shelf all on their lonesome. So this was 13 quid for the 2 Cerastus Knights.
That's about just over half the price of the normal box.
So I was like, yeah, I'll grab 2 Cerastus Knights.
And in fairness, they don't actually have options, so it's not like you're missing out on anything, really.
Yeah. So these two are going to have a lovely bath in some methylated spirits.
Yeah, they look like they might need some TLC.
Yeah, I'm going to try and see, because I'm hoping it's just paint that stuck it, but there is one that looks like he's holding his hand on his hip. So either that or it's going to be a little bit kind of careful just removal of that one. But I'm not going to try and entirely break them down, but I will try and strip them down, get them repainted, and have a couple of my favorite. When I saw them, I was like, "This is my favorite version of this knight. I need to have it."
Are you going to rebase them on square bases?
Oh, we'll see how easy it is to remove.
Well,
I'll probably try.
Well, let me put it this way. I managed to rebase 2 fully painted Warhammer Titans with gravel textured bases, so you shouldn't really have a problem.
Okay, now you're just showing off. It depends how much glue they've used to stick those feet down.
It should be alright. If nothing else, I'd just cut it away and sand it down.
Yeah, that also works, I suppose. Yeah, just give it a little bit of trim. But yeah, I figured I saw him, give him a go with some, get the knights started in earnest, because I definitely want lots of them. Maybe not lots of these guys specifically, but lots of knights.
You're in good company there.
They're good fun. They look really good fun.
They are very cool.
And especially, I know it's the full knight moment that I want from these two, being like, they've got big spear, big shield, let's go.
Well, in the future, when we've got a handful of these sort of lancers between us, what we need to do is, when we do a joint game, we just have the Ride of the Hero moment with just all our lancers coming on at the same time.
We could have a special game that is a jousting tournament between two knight houses.
I think we just need to make a little mini game now.
You know the old challenge rule, like that is what needs to exist for knights. Of being like, if you see another knight, you can challenge them.
I'm thinking like a full on mini game.
Yeah,
and I will make a 40k style list terrain piece for us to do it in, which will then double as normal terrain as well.
Perfect. No.
I think we should do it.
So yeah. Right,
I'm going to move on before we get into a tangent again.
Exactly. I'm trying to stop it.
Okay, so
yes, Jamie, this is you.
This is me. Yeah. So I've snuck in here. With the move, I decided to revamp my hobby space, basically. Especially with a view to go get back onto the live streaming again, now that we're now settled back into the new place. So as you can see, I've got a actually quite nicely tidied desk, although the mats are very well used. But they function, so I'm not replacing them.
Yeah,
I don't understand that. I don't understand the need for someone who wants to replace their cutting mats just because they're a bit dirty. That's kind of the whole point of them.
Yeah. Like when they're falling apart, you replace them. But prior to that point.
And as you can see from the number of mats I've used, I've got quite a large hobby desk. So I've got quite a lot of space there. Some nice little shelving units as well, which I quite like.
I was going to say, it looks very neat and organised. It looks like everything has a place and is in its place.
Oh, it definitely does. I've even got storage underneath the desk as well. Ignore the cables, they will be tidied up, but this room is still in progress.
I wasn't blaming you in this now, but you have given me the thought that I need to move my compressor from where it currently is.
You got it on the desk?
No, I have it under the desk, but I have it under the wrong desk.
So just a few bits under there for things I don't need 100% of the time. And then my new rig that I've built around the desk, which has got my lights, my camera stand, and my mic stand all attached to it.
Ooh.
Which is actually made from my old wardrobe.
Having helped you move some of these pieces, I'm like, I think I remember those bits.
No, thankfully my mate owns a business nearby who's got a load of tools, so I just popped in there one evening with one of the panels from the wardrobe and just cut it up into these little strips basically and just create a frame around the desk. So I've now got a much better setup for overhead lights as well as getting a camera sort of in a nice overhead position.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's looking professional.
I have to say, it's literally there for me. It looks professional, even though it's made out of scrap wood and a bit of spray paint. Saying about lights, I did see something at the Games Expo, which I'm tempted to grab afterwards, which was lights that you could wear as a glove, and it's basically like a little pair of LEDs that you have on like your ring, index finger and thumb. I've got some.
Just so. Oh, have you? Are they good?
Not for painting.
Oh.
they're a bit awkward and they're not amazing. They're good for. They're actually quite good for doing bits and pieces inside computers, but I can't honestly say I found them very useful for painting.
That's disappointing. Yeah. I was hoping that they were good, but I didn't really have any painting when I was at the stand talking to the person about them.
No, overhead lighting is definitely better. Obviously, I've got the two little ones there, although little bit of an issue. The one on the left there seems to have stopped working, so that's a bit annoying. I might have to replace it. Yes, light movable lights, and preferably two as well, so you get nice coverages. Is my absolute go-to in terms of lighting.
Oh, need to do some more lighting investment, but I've already done, I believe, my hobby area investment for this particular stint.
Yeah, so I believe that is your new setup.
It is! Ta-da! Mine isn't as nicely laid out as Jamie's, and is also full of all... So, for context as to why there is just piles of stuff on my table, it doesn't normally look like this.
I recognise some of it.
I was going to say, there's, from stuff we were doing. But this is also part of a concerted effort for me to sit down and go, like, what do I actually have? Because at various points where I've played games and stuff like that, models got kind of shifted about in the boxes, and because everything has magnetized arms, and at various points I've swapped arms in and out, I realized I didn't actually know what units I had based off of the arms that they were meant to do. So I kind of sat there and was like, right, everybody's going to get a pair of arms and the right weapons that they need, and then I will figure out what my remainder is. So now all of my models have arms, they have shoulder pads, and they have a place that they can exist. And they won't immediately fall apart now. I just need to now organise everything else. But I did very pleasingly have the right number of intercessors. I had exactly 10 of the regular intercessors and exactly 10 of the assault intercessors. And that is just standard versions of them. So then, the special weapons are in, a separate little box that I can just be like, right, today you are sergeant. Here are your arms for being a sergeant. I might have to make some more that are specific sergeant roles, but yeah, it was quite cathartic just to sit there and just be like, I'm going to organise for a bit.
Those are my old paint racks, aren't they?
They are indeed, and they're serving very well. Yeah. Now that they're not. So, for context, slightly to this, this was a new desk that I got. Little trip to IKEA. Grabbed myself basically the same desk that I already had, and then made it again because I moved some stuff, created some more space. Just to the right of that picture, you see the printer, and essentially that corner of the desk was where all of my paints were stacked. So those two racks were on top of each other, and the rack to the right of it was in front of it. So if I wanted to get any paints on the lower shelf, I had to move the rack out to the side. And then just in front of that was the entirety of my painting space.
You did not have very much.
I had to do some real finagling with the camera whenever I stream to not be, here's everything else that's around this space. Here's the little window you get to look at where I'm painting.
The only thing that's giving me a little bit of anxiety is that third one there, which the paints aren't sat on it properly, and it's really bugging me.
Oh, yeah, that's because I don't have actually enough space for the number of paints that I have. So some of it is double stacked.
Yeah, no, it's just my brain doesn't.
I will also a hobby recommendation. There is, to the far left-hand side of this, I believe you'll see, there is a nice little rainbow popper thing.
Aye.
That is there for contrast paints and for washes and things like that. And it's just a little well that I can put my stuff in, and then leave it. Once it's dry, you pop it out, you take it away. Because it's silicone, doesn't stick. 10 out of 10 would recommend it. It was like £3 on Amazon. Can highly recommend as just a thing to hold. They've got little wells. You can just put your little bit of paint in there, pick it up, brush it on. Job's a good one. Leave it overnight. It'll dry whatever's left in there, and you just pop it out, and it's away. And also, because it is silicone, none of the paint sticks. So when you're trying to get stuff, it's not like it gets absorbed into anything, like you would do with a palette or anything like that. You can get literally all of the paint off of it if you are using it all up, as I discovered when I was doing washes.
Do you have a problem with just using your wet palette for that then?
I haven't used the wet palette for it. I assumed it would just run through.
No.
And I'd also be worried that it would get too watery.
No, I use my washes and my contrast straight from the wet palette.
Huh.
Which means I can still use it the next day.
Maybe I've solved a problem that I didn't have. Or I shouldn't have had.
Maybe. It does depend. I mean, if your wet palette is particularly saturated, they will thin out after a little while. But I just use the wet palette.
Well.
But then I find it easier to use wet palettes because my hobby tip, and one that I would try to convince you about for ages, as you can see there, is decanting them all into droppers. Because that's why you have my paint racks, so I don't need them anymore. Because all of my stuff is in dropper bottles, and it's so much easier. So much easier.
The second I put it into dropper bottles, I no longer need your paint rack, so they get passed on to the next person.
The only trouble I found was finding a storage solution for them, and that's when I found these little rotating makeup brush boxes.
They are very pleasing. Yeah, it is a very pleasing setup.
Yeah. The only thing I'd like to be able to do, and I haven't figured out quite how I'd do this, is try and get them on like a pole, so I could just have them all lined up in one place, and I could just spin them around, rather than having them up like that. I have seen some stuff like that, but again, it's kind of more like it's designed for smaller bottles. Yeah, I'm thinking I might be able to try and manufacture something, because I've got some bits and pieces lying around. Well, I'm wondering if I can drill a hole out through the bottom and just stack them, basically. I'd have to have some kind of tiering system.
The other thing that I envisioned would be, it wouldn't save on space, but it would look fun, is you could do like a pole, but with holes like at a slight angle, so that you can stick them in and they look like a Christmas tree coming off the side of it. Yeah,
I did think about doing something like that at some point, but I have these now, so I thought, I wonder if I can make this into what I'm envisioning. But yeah, I haven't got around to that yet, and I don't need to, so...
Yeah. I think the other issue I have is that it's easy to transform my Citadel paints into, well, not easy to transform my Citadel paints into drop bottles, but I also have a bunch of different companies' paints as well, which all have slightly different bottle shapes.
Yeah, I very rarely use anything that's not GW anymore, but you might be able to see in the little grey box there on the left-hand side.
Slightly, maybe.
On the second shelf.
Mm-hmm.
In there is a collection of not only spare 2 pots of paints for top-ups, but there's a few army painted paints and stuff in there. That's why I stick them, because I don't use very many. I mainly use them for random terrain projects where I don't want to use all my Citadel paints on.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. A slightly cheaper option. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is pretty much everything. Obviously, you did mention these.
I did. So yeah, I'll keep things very short. These are the AK Interactive paint pens. I had an opportunity at Games Expo. They basically had a little stand there, and they were like, "Here's some models. Come and slap some paint on it and see what you think." And I do have to say, they're pretty good. There was a couple of colours that I wanted to get, which they'd sold out of. So it was like a stand in conjunction with Element Games. So it was like you could go and try them at AK's a little bit, and then you could take, they have like a few, like some of them for sale. You basically take them and then go and buy them for Element Games. And I was chatting to the person behind the counter. They were just like, "Yeah, we've just been selling them all day. Like they've been like a bestseller." They're very similar, essentially, to what Gundam markers are, but they actually work, I would argue, better than Gundam markers in a couple of ways. For a start, they're not a... I forget what the particular chemical properties are of Gundam stuff, but they can melt certain plastics. Because or they can make certain plastics like more brittle. There's a reaction that they have, so you have to be really careful with them. These are basically just acrylic paint, so you're safe there. And the other thing, which is a really nice feature by comparison to what I've had whenever I've used Gundam markers, is the Gundam marker requires you to push down on it. So you go push. It's basically meant to draw paint through, and then whatever you do the first time is just going to go bleh, and just splodge a load of paint onto it.
Yeah.
These ones have the pressure thing in the back, so you basically click it like you would a pen, and then it does pressurizes the paint through, and then you've got a nice, quite a nice fine. It's a big but fine tipped brush to basically hold the paint, and then you just like you were drawing. Honestly, there was a couple of things that were saying about one that they've seen somebody do is take a really brightly coloured model and then use the black on it to basically cell shade, because it was easy. It was really easy to go around and essentially do what would be a hard panel line. They were just literally going through and just like a pen, they were just drawing around every box on the model to give it this really strong cell shaded vibe. And yeah.
I could definitely see two very important uses I might have for these. Which is one, when I go back to 28mm, probably, doing some trim work on some Space Marines.
Yeah.
Would be quite good. But I think the real thing that appeals to me with these is the possibility of doing freehanding.
Yeah.
Freehand, because obviously I've played with a little bit of freehanding. It's a pain. I'm not great at it, but I'm okay. I think with one of these, though, I probably would get a much better result.
So I have a picture of these 4. I only own 3 of them, because that gold in the middle there was the last gold they had for sale. So I still want to get one myself, but that one is set aside for my mate who's a Thousand Suns player. And you can imagine when I was like, hey, so this is how the gold comes out, and you just literally just run a pen over it, and it does it in like one coat. Do you want one? And they were just, yes, please. I don't want to paint any more Thousand Suns trim, please.
Oh yes, well I've got a conversion to do at some point for an Alfarius out of a Gilliman model, and I would just the idea of painting all the trim on that terrifies me.
So much trim.
But if I get a nice bright silver pen, I would do it.
Yeah, I mean the gun metal's pretty good, but they also have it silver. And again, like you'll see, like your mileage may vary, and it might have just been the fact that I was at a show and things were shiny and new, but they went on really well, honestly.
I might have to pick some up. I know there's some in my very local store.
Yes, which has intrigued me, so I might be making a trip to your local store as well.
So I might join you on that trip, and I might pick up one or two to try. I'm more interested because I'd like to try doing a little bit more freehanding work, especially on like some of the bigger stuff, like Titans and Knights for Legions. So
I'll tell you what I really want, and there's again a color which they didn't have there, which I really want to get, which is a red. And the reason why I want the red is because what I can then do is, of an evening, I don't need anything else. I can take that pen, I can sit on the sofa with my pile of Marines that need little red bolters, and I can just go along and be like, boop, 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 and just literally just like that. And I can just be sat on the sofa, because the problem is, if I want to sit and be social, I have to move everything into the other room. Whereas if I can just be like, box, pen, boop, 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 everybody gets a red bolter.
Yeah, that is also a very good point, actually. That does give you a little bit more freedom. Even if you're just sat with your partner or your mates in front of the telly, you could just grab and do a little bit of line work or something like that. It's quite a good idea, actually. Yeah. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Watch this space. I do wonder if this is going to end up being, I buy each one slowly over time separately and realise it would have saved me money just to buy the whole box in one go.
Yeah, that might happen. Depends how much you end up using. But
well, that is true.
I think they will have a place. They don't have a replace brush painting, but there's going to be some cases where they are going to be a game changer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. As I said, the dirty white I picked up just to be like, I wonder how this would work with like going into like the edges and stuff like that. I do have to say it does work pretty well.
I tell you, actually, I know 2 paints that I will have to pick up, or 2 pens that I will have to pick up because they'll be great for terrain, and you're going to be really annoyed about this. Black and yellow.
What do if this was the answer all along?
Yeah.
Don't do this to me. Do not do this to me.
Yeah, I reckon doing chevrons and hazard stripes are going to be very easy with them. Rather than masking things off for airbrushing or sponge painting or doing it by literal brush. Because obviously I like hazards, but putting them on terrains are pain because you've got to mask everything off and either sponge it or airbrush it.
Jamie, I'm inventing my host rights now and we're moving on!
He gets one taste of power.
I feel like I've just been through a psychic phase and I had no deny the witch saves. I've taken emotional damage this day.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, that's such a good idea. I hate it and I want it. I'm gonna get yellow and black as well, and I'm going to try it. But I'm only going to do it on like the odd chainsword or something like that. I'm not going to do it on everything.
No, you're not going to go back to Iron Warriors, are you?
No, I'm not going to. I might do it. I might do like a 28mm Iron Warrior just for fun.
Just to prove a point.
Damn you and your logic.
Saturn box is looking good, don't it? Oh, the joy I'm getting from the pain I've just caused you. Oh
my god, that could be. No. But yes. Watch this space, for we will return to this. So yes, that was some wonderful Tankard Talk, and I think we managed to stay mostly on track with it. A slight diversion at the end, and you infecting my brain with new ideas of things that I want to do based off of paints that I've collected.
You're welcome.
But anyway, we'll wrap up here, and we'll move on to our main topic of today, which is all about Jamie's, the Lords of Aetherion, and the Superfaction as a whole, the different subsections of it, and how they all tie together. I think let's move on, and I'll see you in the next section.
See you in a minute.
Hello, and welcome back to the Mead Hall, where we're going to go into our main section of today, which is all about our discussion around Jay's overall force, the Lords of Aetherion, and the Superfaction, kind of where they will come from, and basically run it as a little bit into you. So, are you ready for your questions, Jamie?
I'm always ready.
Excellent. So, yours is by far the most, I would say, unique and fleshed out of the forces that we've got for Legions. You've probably spent the most amount of time coming up with different ideas for how your Legion's going to look. Mm-hmm. And I guess kind of the first bit is, what inspired this idea of having this big kind of like multi-army element to it?
Okay. Well, to be perfectly honest, it's my answer to what we dubbed faction paralysis. I can never pick a faction, so why pick? I will just play them all.
Yeah.
So it's
smart solution.
Yeah. So it's my way of sort of my answer to that question really is if I can't pick one, pick something where I can mix in as many possibilities as I can. Legions lends itself very nicely to the fact that it's kind of designed around that already, being able to mix and match different factions. But even in the context of, we're going to add in other factions that aren't core or native is the word I was looking for, to the game, such as those factions. I thought I'll stick with the plastic base range, so that at least one of the team is going to be representing what is available in the game.
Yeah, and in what I would probably say is close to not traditional colours, but like close to like I'm doing Marines, but I'm not doing Marines in Heresy era. Yeah.
So that's kind of where it kind of started, and it started very much from I bought the starter box. I've got Titans, I've got Solar Auxilia, I've got Space Marines. I want to use them all. So sod it, let's use them all. And then I just thought, cool. I'll come up with some colour schemes. I also know that very much again, like the idea that I can't pick one faction and stick to it. I made sure that each faction was unique so that they are different for me to play as well as paint. Because although I'm not a massive fan of painting, at least it gives me some change of pace when I'm painting different things.
I think that point that you just raised at the end there leads nicely into the next question, because you said, you want different ways of playing. So I guess before we go into the weeds of each of the factions, but just kind of an overall idea, how do you see kind of each force of them, kind of contributing to where you're going with in the army?
Okay. So essentially the way it's formed currently, so not the way it was initially intended, but the way I've formed it since and how it is now, is that it's all formed around the Night House as the core of the army. So House Dracaryn is the primary and protagonist, if you like, of the faction. Mm-hmm. So they form the core, and they will probably be the core of most narratives. So they serve as the backbone, the vanguard, the main body.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of hierarchy, they're up top.
Yep.
We then have the Solar Auxilia, which form the peasantry, if you like, the mobs. So a bit like going along this idea of like a medieval army, the knights are quite literally the knights and the nobles, and the Auxilia are the peasants, the serfs, the chaff. So they are basically there to be sent into the meat grinder when the nobles don't want to risk their big shiny metal robots. Then we obviously have Invictorum, which is I kind of envision them as more like the siege vehicles, or the siege element of the army. They're there as the massive, heavy support, but they're supplied, so to speak, by an ally of Dracaryn. So they're not technically Dracaryn assets, they're a local allied Forge World project, basically.
Okay.
So, although the Auxilia and Dracaryn are very, very much intertwined and linked, Dracaryn's an ally. The Invictorum is the ally, and they act as like the big puncher for the army or the siege force. The Alpha Legion are the enigmatic, sometimes ally, sometimes opponent. There's a few hints in my Auxilia armies that the Alpha Legion is very much involved with them. Potentially not to the knowledge of Dracaryn. Potentially, maybe. And there's definitely, I like the idea that it's very Game of Thronesy. The House Dracaryn system so there's a lot of espionage and political and moving and shaking. And the Alpha Legion love that kind of thing, so they're very attracted to.
They were just like, we gotta get involved in this. They're doing our stuff, right? Let's get in there.
Yeah, so they're very much playing like an integral role. They're very much involved in a lot of stuff that happens with Dracaryn, but they can also fight against them as well. So they're a fair weather ally.
So it's kind of I think highlighted what I think would be probably the next question, kind of the answer of it. It was very much feels like, to a certain degree, it was a force that grew out of, I have all of these, and then it's going to go in this, that I want to play all of them, it went in that direction. Although I am intrigued by the fact that, your knights are kind of the top dogs, as it was, because they're not the standard in the box. So I guess we'll lead in nicely in terms of, if a Dracaryn is our main force, our protagonist of the story, do you want to tell us more about Dracaryn?
I certainly can. So House Dracaryn, the name kind of hints at where a lot of their themes come from and the colour scheme originates from. So if anyone doesn't know, and I have already mentioned it, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, they've got the Targaryen sort of black and reds going on in the colour scheme, which are also colours I enjoy anyway.
I was going to say, they've got those gamer colours. Although conveniently, I do actually realise that I have potentially the House Dracaryns everywhere.
Yeah, they're all over the place. So they have. There's quite an in-depth backstory I've got with them in terms of how they sort of function and operate. There's definitely a structure and a hierarchy. So I very much envision them like a medieval knight. or medieval nobility. So there will be, your bog standard knights are the lesser nobles, and then as you go higher up, you get stuff like barons and marshals, and then all the way up to a king and a queen that rule the house. And there's also sort of House Dracaryn, because I'm an Alpha Legion lover, as you can imagine, it has secrets.
As well they should.
And so the House Dracaryn itself does have a secret psychic lineage. So some of their knights and their scions are actually psychically active, including the royal line as well. So I will be doing some cool knight conversions where we'll actually have psycho knights, which kind of exist in 40k, kind of don't. Like we don't have anything that says they can't exist, but the only examples I know of is a single Chaos Psychic Knight model. But the precedent's there, and it's my hammer, I do what I want.
Which one's the Chaos Psychic Knight?
The Abominant is the one with the spindly whip.
Did not know it was a Psychic Knight. I mean, it makes sense. Like, Psychic mutations are a thing that happens all over the place. I've got this question just to me now, from the kind of the way that the lineage works. Is it a case of the bigger the knight, the higher the royalty?
No, not necessarily.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
No. So, I mean, for example, like the Acasta's Knight is the biggest knight, but in traditional knight house lore, they're not considered honourable to wield because they're gun knights. Basically, they sit in the back and act as basically mobile turrets. And House Dracaryn does not break that tradition. The Acasta's Knight is very much, you're in it because we need you in it. Therefore, you're probably one of the lesser houses. Although they've got the biggest knight and the biggest gun, they're not considered particularly valuable. Well, they are strategically valued, but not in terms of nobility.
They don't carry like the same station. They're like, right, you're going to sit. You're not going to actually see the battle. You're going to sit at the back of the battle and fire the guns over there.
Yeah. So the Questoris and the Sorestus pattern knights generally it comes down to the preference of the noble, which ones they tend to feature or pilot. The royal line does tend towards the Sorestus patterns, but the other nobles will intermix between Sorestus and Questoris patterns. The Armature Knights are something completely different.
Okay.
Which we'll come to in just a minute, I would assume.
No, I feel like it's a good segue from that one, isn't it? Yes. So those armatures, what's different about them?
So the armatures, I'm kind of blending a little bit of the chaos side of the pond, if you like, in terms of the narrative of the armatures. So
the Alpha Legion player is doing both sides. Who couldn't happen here?
Of course not. Yes. So the armatures in Dracaryn aren't piloted by squires, if you like. They are piloted by criminals or dishonoured knights, and they're basically used as attack dogs. So, ironically, although this is technically an Imperial Knight army, the armatures are more like the Chaos War Dogs, and they are treated like warhounds. They are used as attack dogs rather than anything else. So they're basically a suicide squad, if you like.
Does that mean that we're going to see some potential conversions to have the because you can obviously run the war dogs with that full melee loadout?
You can. I may do something like that at some point, but as of right now, I've only got the standard variations. But I am quite keen to try some more stuff because I'm kind of hoping that as time goes on, GW will give the Imperial Knight houses some extra little gizmos.
Yeah, it'd be very nice to have. So, are you limiting yourself? Limiting yourself is the wrong word here, but just like, are you going to be going for just the kind of standard Questoris versions, or are you going to mix in some of the AdMech specific versions as well?
So I probably will add in some, but I'm kind of thinking that they might be either suits on loan from Invictorum, because they're a proper Forge world, or I might just have. Well, no, that's probably where they will be. They will be from Invictorum's homeworld, which we'll come on to later. Whether they're painted up in the same style as Invictorum, or whether they get repainted specifically for Dracaryn, I'm not quite sure yet. I am leaning towards the idea, it'd be quite nice if they were like Invictorum colours or a version of that. So you can quite clearly see they are still part of the same collective, but they're not actually Dracaryn Knights, they're Admech Knights.
I guess it could also be quite good fun to have them almost like a mix between both, like a little bit, Legio Invictorum and a bit, House Dracaryn, because we'll get onto respective colours, but I feel like there'd be an interesting going from Dracaryn being your red and black, and then just mixing in that little bit, mixing them some way in between to kind of show the blending might be a fun little paint job.
Yeah, there's definitely some options there. definitely something I need to consider or look at. But they're not my. I'm not rushing out to get the Mechanicum Knights yet. There's a lot of other things I want to expand first, and some things that we will come on to. And ironically, the Night Houses aren't going to be the first ones I expand out into.
Okay.
Because I already have about 4,000 points of knights. That is.
Sorry, I just had a small heart attack there. I was like, I knew you'd got a lot. I didn't know it was that much.
No, I have about 4,000 points of knights already. There's some interesting things I'd like to do with particularly one of the other factions first, just as a bit of fun.
Interesting. Well, I'm sure we'll be coming on to that. So, in terms of the House Dracaryn, you said they're kind of one of the more fleshed out ones, and with the elements that they've got. In terms of that kind of fleshing out, is there anything that they have that I guess makes them special as a knight household? Where is it just that House Dracaryn is the name, or is there some references that they then have that kind of earns them that title?
Yeah, so obviously one of their secrets is their psychic lineage, which they keep very much hidden from the Imperium. But that is very secret, so they don't emphasise that in any way, obviously, in their heraldry or their colours or their armour.
I presume that some Alpha Legions have managed to get hold of that information and use it as a little bit of leverage on them.
That is quite potentially how some backroom dealings have been taking place. But openly, so Dracaryn, dragon-esque, okay? So that comes from, in the narrative that I've kind of formed, is that on their homeworld of Aetherion, there is a sort of a network of underground volcanic tunnels and caves that basically spread out across the entire planet, and it's quite a volcanic planet. It's still Earth-like in the sense that it's got various biomes, but a lot of it does consist of these volcanic areas, and a lot of the houses have built these massive fortresses around active volcanoes. So they've got obviously specialized.
I was going to say, that seems like a bad idea, but I'm sure they've got it handled.
They have, they've got special technology that protects them from, volcanic activity. And it also acts as like a very natural defensive feature. Most factions, when they come to invade Aetherion, are going to struggle to take a knight's castle, let alone a knight castle surrounded by magma and an active volcano.
Sorry, are we talking about a lava moat right now?
Oh, yeah. And, of course, these kind of things already exist in 40k. You've got the Magma City from Mars. So it's not like I'm breaking tradition or law here.
We should do that anyway, that's fun.
Yeah. But there's also something that sleeps and lives underground in these massive networks. Massive volcanic lizards. So kind of like the salamanders from Vulcan's homeworld. There are similarly developed lizards that thrive in volcanic environments, but the idea is these are much bigger than what you might find on Vulcan's homeworld. These are huge. They're not called salamanders. I did come up with a name for them at some point, but I can't remember what it was. And basically, the Knights of Dracaryn use these knights to hunt these beasts underground. So they have like a rite of passage. So when a knight is ready to take their suit, they get in, and they do the whole scion process bit to sort of attune with the knight, and their first goal is to go underground into one of these magma tunnels and hunt one of these lizards. So they literally have this, like, I just envision this really cool underground setting that's still brightly lit because of all the magma, and this knight charging around underground hunting these massive subterranean lizards. So you've got just so I'm going to be completely clear. I'm not saying it's ripping anything off, but just as a phrase that I need to get out of my head. So it's Pacific Rim, but with knights fighting giant lizards underground in a volcano. Yes.
I mean, how is that not the best thing?
You're doing an army that's based on big, stompy robots. Why would I not give them a cool, epic storyline to go with it?
Now, obviously, they're knights, they're in their heraldry. I feel like there is a distinct opportunity here from a modelling perspective for what happens with the trophies.
Well. Yes, so on my Legion scale models, I haven't gone to the effort of doing lots of additions, particularly on the rank and file knights, if you like. But what I do intend to do is on sort of character knights, which I'm going to make, I will have some trophies attached to the knights. So I've got an envisioning in my head at the moment of like the king's suit of armour, which is a bit more ostentatious and gilded with a big flowing Drake scale cloak on the back of it, with like a lizard's head shoulder pad or something, just to really beef him up and look impressive.
I was going to say no more. Like, I've seen a couple of things where people have done like the cloak on an Imperial Knight, and every time I'm like, this, just the idea of it is so ridiculous. Considering the size of a knight, like somebody going and making a cloak for this thing is insane. And you're just like, but what if we one-upped it by making it a lizard that was big enough to skin and turn into this cloak?
Yeah. Think salamanders, but 16 stories tall.
I mean, actually, the fact that salamanders already come with basically scaled cloaks, I feel like, and the difference in size between it won't be
too hard.
It won't be too hard. The cloak is kind of there. You just need to snip, stick it on your knight. A little bit of green stuff here and there, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I've definitely got the ideas in the mind, and it will happen eventually. Like I said, I'm kind of saving that for later, mainly because I've got quite a few grand ideas for what I want to do with Dracaryn, and I'd like to play around with some other stuff first before I truly commit to doing that. But I do have a 28mm scale knight, which I do need to do at some point, and I probably will do a little bit of extra stuff to him.
Nice.
Yes. Because in theory, all of the knights would have this kind of thing. All of the knights in House Dracaryn, but at the 8mm scale, I don't feel it's worth doing that for all of the models. Whereas at the 28mm scale, I'm only going to have a handful, so I will put the extra gizmos on.
So we're saying 28mm scale knight army as well?
Yeah, because every time I think about painting a 28mm army, I just cry. But then I look at the knight kit, I'm like, but I would enjoy doing that, so I'm going to.
Would you make them out of the Chaos Knights, or would you make them out of the Imperial Knights?
To be perfectly honest, I'd probably use the Imperial Knights as the base, because a lot of the Chaos Knights, although I love the look of them, they do have a lot of Chaos iconography.
They are Chaos Knights.
Like the irony is, a lot of people say they're just Knights with spikes. They're not. They've got a lot more on them. If they were just Knights with spikes, I probably would use them as the base, because actually the spikes kind of work with the whole Drake idea. But no, I probably will stick with the Imperial Knight kits for now. That's not to say that I won't ever do it.
Okay, so I feel like we've kind of already hit on this one, but just as a nice little wrap up on this section, I feel, about House Dracaryn, unless there's anything else that I've missed an opportunity for you to talk about.
No, I think you're all right.
I was just going to say, you've said you're kind of on pause with things to go from here, but I feel like it's a good question to ask of what is going to be next for this part of that faction.
Yeah, so the most immediate next project will be to probably, well, to be fair, actually, the first thing will probably be to get the other sets of Cerastus patterns I don't own, because I own pretty much every Knight chassis that isn't Mechanica now, apart from 2 versions of the Cerastus pattern. But in terms of actual something interesting, my first project will be a character Knight, which will probably be a Baron or a Baroness. So I'm going to start on the lower and then work my way up to doing like a king, which will come. And the idea will be, it will be designed to have magnetized head and arms, because it will be able to hot swap between looking like a standard Cerastus Knight, and when they're not working with allied Imperial forces, they will rearm themselves into a Psyker Knight.
Ooh.
So they basically, what they do is they will quite literally chuck their knights into the machine shop and say, right, we've got an ally with the Dark Angels, quickly swap out all the stuff so we don't look like a Psyker. But then, as soon as the Dark Angels have gone, they were like, right, okay, let's have my Psyker guns back.
I was going to ask, so, this is obviously a kind of a design that you're crafting. Have you given thoughts in terms of how a Psychic Knight would look?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to take most of the inspiration from the Warlord Sinister, which is the sort of the only real scaled knight-ish thing that is a Psyker. Because the Abominant is a Chaos Knight, so it's just a very chaosy looking knight. So I kind of looking at the Warlord Sinister, so it's got that sort of flat domed face. So I might do something with that, but I'm kind of envisioning almost like a hoplite helmet with like a flat face inside.
Ooh, okay, yeah, I can see that.
Maybe painted up in like glowing blue or something.
Always a good psychic look.
I think something like that is probably where I'm going to go with it.
I'm going to throw an idea out there, and please feel free to ignore it. I just thought it would look really. It would look like something. I feel like I need to see it before I can make a judgment on how it looked. But the idea of a knight, you know how various like the Imperial like Psykers, like Navigators and like the Primara Psyker have like the psychic staff. Just the idea of that, but on a knight scale.
I mean, I've got no problem with doing that, to be honest. Especially as it wouldn't be hard to convert from, say, the Lancer. It's kind of the body's kind of already made for that. I don't think I'd make it the standard loadout for that kind of unit, but I think that's something I could probably do as like maybe a Merlin-esque knight.
Yes.
The court advisor, maybe.
No, not anybody that's going to backstab them anytime soon.
No.
Yeah,
someone to trust.
No, yeah, definitely. You haven't built an entire army that's based around secrets and backstabbing, have you? An entire superfaction where everybody shouldn't trust anybody with any of their belongings or their back turned to them for any length of time. So we're talking about the knights, the ones in charge of planet, the planet Aetherion. But I feel like it's a good opportunity. lead into nicely are Auxilia, the Aetherion Auxilia, the peasantry, the unwashed masses compared to your lordy and noble knights.
Mm-hmm.
So the Aetherion Auxiliary. What do they look like? Tell me about them.
Yeah, so I kind of like I like the idea that the Aetherion itself is a bit of it's a unique night world, because a lot of night worlds are very much viewed as completely medieval-esque, so it's very almost medieval culture with a bit of technology involved, primarily around the knights' castles. But Aetherion's slightly different. It is actually a hive world.
Okay.
So it's actually got several sprawling hive cities on it, which do a lot of manufacturing and labour work and all sorts. And then it's only in the outskirts and in the mountains and stuff that the night houses exist. So it's a bit unique in the sense that it's not technically a feudal world, but it is ruled like a feudal world. So the night houses, or the night houses that exist on the planet, basically have their castles, and each hive city essentially pays homage or is subservient to a house.
Okay. So just to be clear in terms of it, is House Dracaryn the only house on Aetherion, or
No.
is there?
No.
It's just a big house on Aetherion.
Yeah. So the House Dracaryn is the ruling house, the ruling bloodline. But there are several minor houses that all pay fealty to Dracaryn, and on the battlefield, every knight wears the Dracaryn colours on their armour, but every knight also features their own family heraldry on their banners and their tilt shields and stuff like that. But the main colours are Dracaryn.
Gotcha. Right. Yep. On board.
Yeah. So the actual world of Aetherion is actually a hive world, and the people on it are actually just industrial workers, basically, who pay homage and fealty to their knight overlords, essentially. And so they have their own structures. They do have, overseers and lords, and well, not lords, but they have different titles and stuff. You get very minor nobles that aren't quite powerful enough to actually have any real power on the planet.
So they get to be in charge loosely of the hive city, not fully in charge.
Yeah.
I was like, how does I was gonna query, like, how does a knight household stay in charge of a hive city? And I realized when you're in the 20-foot tall robot, it's very hard to argue that you shouldn't be in charge. So I suppose that grants you a certain degree of immunity when it comes to taking power.
It certainly does, and there is, like with many things in the Imperium, there is just a level of that's the way it's always been. We don't know any better.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said the kind of they've got this almost industrial, they're a hive city. They're doing lots of kind of manufacturing. Does that come across at all in the way that you've thought about designing and kind of painting them and the scheme you've come up with?
Other way around, really. So I decided to paint them in a way that made it extremely efficient and as quick as possible for me to paint, because it was the part of the army that I knew I wanted a lot of, because I wanted it to be my way of getting a horde, or having an option for a horde. Therefore, I wanted something that was very quick and easy to paint, so I just went with nice, dirty colours, because they're really easy to do, and if you make a mistake, it generally just adds to the effect. And so, also, all the vehicles as well, I went for a very industrial, metallic look to them. So again, I can paint so much of it so fast with an airbrush or a dry brush, and most of the model's done. I can paint a tank company at Legion scale. Oh well, so like a whole detachment of, say, Legion Russes, 8 of them, I can do in an afternoon after work. Done.
Okay.
So the idea of them being the industrial army in a hive world just stemmed from the fact that that's the way I want to paint them, so it made more sense for them to come from a hive environment rather than feudal lands. That also gave me the excuse to also run all the tanks that I got in the various box sets.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, I quite like the idea of the you get on one side you had the idea of the army, and then you did the painting for the knights. Whereas this was like, I've done the painting, right? How does this fit? And it's a nice little, it's a nice little bit of synergy kind of between the two. So it's your kind of army. I presume we're going to see some psychers in there.
Oh yes. So, I mean, if the nobles have a secret psychic bloodline, it stands to reason that over generations, a little bit of cross hierarchical. I was going to say cross-hierarchical relations have existed, and therefore some of that psychic lineage has creeped into the masses at some point in time, whether that was, political scandals or whether it was whatever it was.
Yeah.
So there's a strata of people within the Auxilia that are psychers. The difference is that the non-noble psychers are very sort of treated differently to how they would be in the noble houses. So the noble psychers are literally the top tier, the creme de la creme of the strata. But in the lesser houses or in the peasantry, psychers are viewed as very much almost abhorrent. So they're kind of everyone on Aetherion is very pragmatic. So they will always use whatever's to hand. So they won't just kill the psychers outright, because they understand that psychic power is power and it's useful. Yes. So the psychers of the lesser classes, the lower classes, are considered to be more like property or tools rather than actual people almost.
Yeah, it's like nobody other than a noble could be a psyker, so you must be some weird mutation freak that we're just gonna use the abuse. Like they've never come down to this level. That's impossible.
No. And that's of course in the background. Maybe there's a reason for that. That's because the nobles that are the psychic nobles want them to feel special. So anyone who's lesser having that power must be wrong. So it's kind of ingrained into them that anyone who has psychic potential is either a noble or is wrong.
Yeah. 40k. It's such a fun setting, isn't it?
It is great for doing stuff like this because I can play with the darker side of things. I can have the noble night houses, but then show that there's always a dark side.
There is always a little bit of a shadowy side to it. It's one of those things that people go, "Would you like to live in your favorite fantasy universe?" We're like, no, never this one, never this one.
There is no part of that world where you actually want to live in it.
No. So they're as a kind of auxiliary force, going to be having kind of a mix of different things. Mm-hmm. So in terms of their kind of, I guess, their fielding on the table, how are you envisioning kind of building them, or where have you kind of built them in terms of that, the force so far?
So they are, ironically, probably going to be the actual anvil of the army. So Dracaryn is meant to be like the core, but the reality is because the unwashed masses, as you put them, greatly outnumber them, they will become the core of the army. So they are very much built wide with lots of different options. We've got artillery, aircraft, mass infantry assaults. They're kind of my catch-all. If I need to get a job done, I send them in because they can do anything. I can kind of fit around any scenario with them. House Dracaryn are very good in an open field. But anything, or in the tight confines of a city maybe, but there are some situations where they're less capable, so they either have to be massively augmented or entirely rely on their auxiliaries to actually do the job.
They're very much like they're a numbers game. They're a little bit of a what's the right word for it? Like a multi-tool of an army.
Yeah.
You want a little bit of everything for filling in whatever gaps are left by the other forces.
Yeah. So in like my standard armies, they will probably contribute the infantry, where the Dracaryn act as the main damage dealers, in quite a lot of scenarios, but they can very, very easily just go, do you know what? The House Dracaryn sit back, we'll do this.
Yeah. We're just going to send in the army for this one. Yeah, we don't want to have to deal with it. Is there because obviously with Legions you've got your HQs and things like that. Have you embedded any kind of like Dracaryn references into the HQs, or is it very much kind of like the Aetherion force is the Aetherion force, and whilst they are kind of the cow to House Dracaryn, they don't actually there's no nobles that are having to go and stand amongst them.
Yeah, no, the scions of Dracaryn and the other noble houses don't like to footstock in any way, shape, or form, so they don't actually form any part of the actual structure of the auxiliary infantry. The only kind of link is that the Aetherion Auxilia's sigil, their symbol, is a slightly stylized shadowed wingless dragon.
Ooh.
So they're kind of the worm, if you like, WY, rather than the noble dragon with the wing motif.
So just again, just so I'm clear in terms of where this is going. So we've got House Dracaryn, whose symbol is traditional dragon, yeah, winged dragon vibe, yeah. Okay, then we go down a level, and then the level below that is we get to the Auxilia, whose symbol is a dragon now without wings. Mm-hmm. Now, if you tell me that we go to the Invictorum and they're a dragon with 2 heads, and then finally we go down one more level and we get 3 heads, I'm going to have questions. And those questions are going to be, was this planned or did this just happen perfectly?
We'll find out.
We'll see. Yes. I was just thinking, be like, This initial logo is getting a little bit more Hydra-y as we go. So they're they've got that little hint, kind of that little nice through line in terms of the symbols, and from a gameplay perspective, they played lots of stuff with them. I guess in a similar vein to like House Dracaryn, I know the army's never done, because no army has ever done. So what is next for the Aetherion Auxiliary?
Well, the Aetherion Auxiliary is the faction of the sub-faction of the Superfaction that I do want to expand next, because I have two big ideas I want to do. Well, one big and one-ish big. So this is where my next project for them is actually going to be introducing some 3D printed new units that don't exist in Legions currently, and probably never will. So there might something I need to make myself, because I want them. Now, obviously, I will want to add some Psyker commanders. That's a very small little project that I will do. Yeah. The next one after that is just slightly bigger. I want to have a cavalry division, because it's cool.
I literally saw a video the other day. I don't know what the context was, but it was a video of a tank charge, and then following behind and then passing by the tanks was a cavalry charge as well. And I was like, this is how I picture it going down whenever you get your mixed divisions of guard rocking up. You got your Cadians and your Atlan Rough Riders. So, and yours is a feudal element, like not feudal world, but like very noble knight element.
Yeah, and I
have guys on horses.
I kind of want. I still want them to feel like they came from a feudal world. It's almost like they built the hive cities over millennia, but they still grounded in that feudal ideology. So having the cavalry there kind of does that for that part of the army. So I do want to do the cavalry, but my big project that I'd like to do is I want to do an entire abhuman division. Because like I said, the House Dracaryn and the planet of Aetherion, they are very pragmatic. They will use whatever tools are available, and there are quite a lot of abhumans that have sprung up over the centuries and millennia because of the expansion of hive cities and mutations. So there is a significant population of abhumans on the planet. And I already have, because they already exist in Legions, is the Ogren.
Yep.
So my next idea, so the Ogryn are going to be your abhuman punchers. They are a pure melee unit. I'm then going to enhance that with a core unit, which is going to be Beastmen.
Nice.
Which will be the sort of hybrid kind of melee, kind of shooting force. And then the final bit will be a new support unit, which is obviously the same category as Ogryn. Will be Ratlings, so we'll have the snipers. So they will be the full-on ranged special unit. I may at some point think I'll try and find some files for some little squads or vocam just for fun and find a role for them.
Yeah, I was going to say they're not quite the same role as Rattlings, but I feel like at 8 mil scale, there's a chance they might get a little bit blended in there.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure whether I'll do that or not yet, but they're definitely the original 3. The abhuman division, I think, would just be a fun thing to have.
Oh, be great fun. And like you could, in all fairness, take it in a bunch of different ways because there are so many different abhumans outside of just the fact that kind of the Votan, the squats as it was, are their own thing now. But there's all sorts of different abhuman types that exist, and you could explore a whole range of different things with them. So yes, abhumans is the next big one. So watch this space for some abhumans. I guess that is actually quite a nice thing in terms of what we're doing, where we are removed from the heresy era. Means we can kind of do a little bit more of exploring of stuff that isn't as prevalent in the heresy. I appreciate that there were abhumans around in the heresy. They've kind of been around for ages, but like didn't really feature as it was.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I know in the older editions of the heresy game and certain stories there were quite literally abhuman armies during the heresy. Not many, but they did exist.
I mean, I guess everything in some way, shape, or form existed in the heresy. It's just whether or not they were a focus of a story or not.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of heresy or 40k is it's literally an entire galaxy that's heavily populated. So pretty much anything you can imagine probably does and could exist.
I think the best argument I heard in terms of like just 40k in general was don't try and make a thing that is set within a story of 40k because like there's this, it's just so dense from that perspective. But make something that fits the vibe of 40k when you're doing your own stuff. And I know your opinions on it, but like Dawn of War, they didn't go, we're going to make a game about Ultramarines because there's so much Ultramarines lore that it wouldn't fit. They were like, we're going to make our own chapter and we're going to keep everything kind of separate from it all and just tell a story that fits the vibe of 40k.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the safest way to go. Particularly tabletop as well. You've got lots of freedom to do your own thing. That's why I went to the effort of creating my own planet or system and factions, completely unique. You can do it though with obviously well-known factions because you mentioned Dawn of War. Obviously, the most recent example was Space Marine 2, and that is Ultramarines. So
absolutely, and literally named character arrives in Space Marine. Can we spoil the end of Space Marine? Does enough people Space Marine 2? Do enough people know it yet?
I would imagine it's probably been spoiled a lot now. So if you don't want to know a spoiler, I suggest clicking over to, I don't know, a couple of minutes from now.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm just going to name drop and then move on, but actually, that's a fair point. We will just waffle.
Yeah, I will try and, if I remember when I'm editing this, I'll put a little tag where they can skip to after the spoiler. So, John?
I was just going to say, the fact that, Calgar arrives at the end of Space Marine 2 is like, they can insert name characters. And I was also going to say, like, I am playing for 28 mil Black Templars. That is a named faction, and I can still do my own stuff within it. I just meant more from the perspective of whenever you're doing stuff within 40k, it's often easier to avoid named characters, so you don't end up in a situation where you've got like really kind of heavily established lore.
It's definitely the safest option. It gives you the most flexibility. in what you can do. But there's no harm in doing it if you want to. I mean, part of my army is from the lore and will feature some named characters.
Yes. And I feel like, should we move on to the next part of the army?
I think that's probably a good idea.
So our next part of it, we've got House Dracaryn, we've got the Aetherion Auxilia. Let's move a little bit off-world to the Legio Invictorum now. Our big old Titan force. And as you said, they come from a kind of neighbouring Forge world. So I guess, let's hear about the Forge world. Are we going to... I feel like there's also the potential we could see Admech from there as well. But the Titan Legion, what are they all about? And how do they look and how do they link in?
So they're probably the least developed of my armies in terms of narrative. They come from a planet called Hellonis, and they've got a sort of star motif. So their symbol is actually a glowing white star, not a dragon.
Disappointing. Not a dragon.
Yeah, they are sort of off to the side a little bit, and they've. I haven't quite figured out the bones of the story, but I have some envisioning that Dracaryn and them kind of had some kind of history during the heresy, and that's why they kind of became closely knit together.
Okay.
But I haven't fleshed them out too much. They are quite a large force of Titans, that they still have a large force of Titans, even relative to 40k. And they produce their own Titans as well. They do have access to Imperator Titans. And they have a much brighter colour scheme than all of my other factions combined, really. They are half and half, bright red and golden yellow, with gold trim, with that bright gold trim. They are very gaudy and in your face.
So I guess maybe from a narrative perspective, in terms of their kind of relationship, I wonder if it would make sense that they maybe weren't as involved in the heresy, just because I know that the heresy cost like a lot of Titans, because they weren't keen to throw away Titans, but there was a lot of kind of throwing Titans at each other, which led to a destruction of a lot of Titans. So I don't know if it's something that you'd consider, but maybe they were less involved in the heresy, so they didn't burn as many Titans, and they therefore didn't kind of get lumped in with the, oh, you joined that side? Well, now you're going to suffer because of it.
Yeah, so the actual idea behind the whole Superfaction is that they actually very specifically tried to stay out of the heresy. House Dracaryn itself did not want to be involved in the heresy. They didn't want to pick a side. They didn't care about the Imperium. In fact, secretly, they actually want to secede from the Imperium.
Ooh. That's kind of worse for most people when they try that.
Hence why they've never actually done it. Because they saw how the heresy turned out, and Horus had much more power than Dracaryn does. I mean, Dracaryn's quite powerful, because it's a Lighthouse with an allied Titan Legion and all that. But compared to someone like the War Master, and even the War Master couldn't succeed, they don't fancy their chances. They're very much they're kind of just waiting it out and seeing what happens. They'll fight with the Imperium when they have to, but other than that, they kind of just stick to doing their own thing.
I'm sure I've said it before, and I will say it again right now. If you need to read Kingmaker,
I have started the audiobook.
Good. Continue. Very quick note on the audiobook, though, because it made me laugh so much at the beginning of the audiobook, and this is literally the beginning of the audiobook. The reading out of the stats sheet for a knight was hilarious to listen to, because I was like, what am I listening to? As they were just rattling off facts about a knight. And then I went and looked at the actual physical book, and the first page of the book is just like a picture of a knight with all the labels around it. And it was just, whoever picked up was just like, okay, we start here, and just started reading all of the stats.
Yeah, I remember that as the opening of the audiobook. It was quite funny.
It really made me laugh. So yes, like the Legio, they're the least fleshed out in terms of lore. I'd probably say they're definitely fleshed out in terms of your army, though, aren't they?
Yes and no. I mean, I have 5, mostly warhounds, and I have a warmaster. I do have another 3 that aren't painted yet.
So, I mean, for most people, if you turn up and said, I have 8 Titans, I would call that a fleshed out Titan army.
Only 5 of them are painted.
Sorry, I miscounted. Somebody who turns around and says, I have 9 Titans, I would argue, is probably got a pretty fleshed out Titan army.
Yeah, but I'm still missing some. Like, I really, really want the direwolves. I don't care if they're good in game. I think they look alright. But I like the idea, because I also like the idea of a thematic scout Titan army. So you literally just warhounds and direwolves. Maybe, obviously, I'm envisioning like a tank battle at some point, either against, El's tank heavy Night Lord's army, or maybe going up against Joe's Dark Mechanicum, where I just send a load of auxiliary tanks backed up by warhounds and direwolves, because it's just like this massive open field almost. So they're like, right, we need to get here fast, and there's no cover, so we just send all the armoured stuff that's really fast.
I mean, it just sounds like an absolute killing field in that regard.
Yeah, and I just think it'd be hilariously good fun.
So, in terms of then Legio Invictorum, I've said it before, I've said it again. It's a U army, which means therefore we are going to be seeing Psi Titans.
Oh yes, yes we are.
And kind of as a relation to that, have you thought about how? Because like Psi Titans themselves are rare. I mean, obviously there was like the Emperor's personal Titan Legion, which was the was it the Legio Sinister?
The Ordo Sinister.
Ordo Sinister. And there was, I forget the name, I actually sent you the video about them, but like another big faction of Psi Titans. Mm-hmm. So have you kind of thought about, like, I presume you have thought about it, maybe, but like, how did these come to be? How have they come to be these Psi Titans?
So my idea is obviously that Helonus, the planet, the Forge World, is quite technologically advanced. They're capable of producing their own Titans still. And the idea is, I'm thinking, that the nobles of House Dracaryn have to offer up some of their offspring to Invictorum to train them as the Titan Princeps. And they are obviously, because they're part of their high noble bloodlines, are psychically adept. So they actually build the Titans for these former nobles of House Dracaryn.
That sounds really cool. It's almost kind of like a bit like the kind of like the tech marine vibe of like you've got to kind of pay your dues, you've got to go and study under them and almost become kind of like a part of that. Is that going to be reflected in their paint job? Are they still going to kind of keep a little bit of that House kind of Dracaryn on their Psi Titans, or are they going to be very much like you're part of the Legio, you wear our colours?
Yeah, no, they are given up. They are literally essentially traded over to Invictorum, so they are sacrificed to them. They become part of the Forge Worlds. I'd imagine they're probably psycho-indoctrinated into becoming part of the Legio, so they don't really have any direct links to Dracaryn, so they don't get to fight their colours or their family is held or anything like that.
I can definitely see that. Yeah. In some of our more narrative spins, and we do love a good narrative spin, I can definitely see some good kind of story arcs like around that. If you ever want to do a Invictorum against Dracaryn kind of vibe, you can definitely have somebody who was a member of that family and is now part of a Legio Titan instead. And some good juicy narrativeness there. I like it.
That's always the hope.
So you said you've got obviously some Titans still left to build, and you've alluded to actually pretty well in terms of what's next. Are direwolves next on the list, or is there something that's taking a higher priority?
I'm not quite sure yet. So I've got a warlord ready to go, which is already magnetised to be both a Psi Titan and a standard, as you might expect. I've got a Reaver, and I've got another 2 Warhounds to do. So I'll actually have two 3-man or 3 Titan Warhound packs, which is quite nice.
That is nice.
So I'm toying between the idea of either. No, I'll tell you. I know what's coming next. It's going to be a 3D print. It's going to be a Imperator. I'm gonna 3D print an Imperator.
Now,
because why not just make the biggest thing I can make?
Of course, we need an Imperator, and maybe at some point they will grace us with plastic Imperator.
Maybe they will. I hope
it would be huge, though.
Wow, it depends. I mean, the scale of the Imperator, from what I can tell, isn't that well defined. And although I've seen some depictions where it's basically twice the size of a War Master, and twice the size of the current War Master is about, I would say, is probably about the size of a Sorestus 28mm kit.
Okay.
So it's within the realms of plastic possibility.
It's within the realms of plastic possibility. I mean, it
would be a man's kit, though.
It would be a wild kit. There was 2 things I was going to say in relation to it. I could see it as like a kit that you have to buy in 2 parts. Like you buy the bottom half of an Imperator and then the top half, because they're like, we can't sell this as 1 box, but if we can sell it as 2 boxes, that's okay.
They did it with Forge World, with the actual Titans. So it's not outside the possibility that that's the way they could solve the problem.
Or they just make one really big box.
Yeah. So although the size would be probably about equivalent to the Sorestus 28mm, I have a funny feeling it'd be a lot more plastic, just because of the chunk.
It also would be a Legions model that you just wouldn't take a base for. You don't need a base.
What if they sold it? What if they sold one part of it as like? I wonder if there's a way they could sell it as like a small Titan, and then the other box is a scenery kit that could be used to convert into the cathedral.
I was going to say that what you do is you sell the whole thing as several scenery kits, and if you collect all the scenery, you build an Imperator.
Yeah, I wonder if that would even be possible.
So Imperator is the big next project. Yeah. Is it going to be a psychic Imperator?
Oh, it's tempting, but for now, I think the Warlord Sinister will do for now. Okay. And adding in my own psychic notes is probably enough for me.
Okay. I'm sure you'll leave it magnetized in the off chance that you want to swap it out.
Yeah, I mean, if they ever make a plastic kit, then I will plan ahead, shall we say?
Yeah. Okay. Watch this space.
Yes.
I think in this scenario we are safe from GW suddenly announcing a plastic Imperator.
I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong. I so hope I'm wrong. And if I am wrong, that is hilarious, and I don't know, I guess I'll buy an Imperator. Is a sentence I never thought I'd be able to say.
That's a good point, actually. To be fair, I never thought I'd be able to say I own a Titan, let alone being able to say I own a Titan Legion.
You own 9 Titans. Go back and tell little baby Jay, guess what, in the future, we own 9 Titans.
That's just the start.
That's just the start. You could say we own. I can't. How many Baneblades do you own now?
6.
Yeah, because I know you said you had like a Baneblade when you were younger, when you kind of like first started. Younger. Oh, sorry, young, but younger. Yeah. And the idea then be like, we own 8. Oh, that's amazing. How big are they? Itty bitty, relatively speaking. So we've got our forces that are, the knight households, and their linked auxilia, their feudal kind of militia that goes with it, and then our legio. But there is a 4th.
There is a 4th. Yeah.
I'm almost disappointed I can't say it's a 3rd head to this Hydra. But it is the Hydra that links these three together to a certain degree. Our Alpha Legion, our sneaky Alpha Legion in the background.
Indeed.
And I feel like at this stage, I don't need to say why did you choose Alpha Legion, but what is their role in all of this?
Yeah, so obviously, everyone knows by this point probably that I'm a massive Alpha Legion fanboy. So I had the kits, I had some Space Marines, they were going to be Alpha Legion, job done. In order to fit them into the story, I just found some way of adding them into the whole espionage and sort of secrecy system that I've kind of built up around it, nice and easy. The actual gameplay aspect for them, though, I kind of envisioned them as as I think Space Marines should have always been, the Special Forces. So they're my Alpha Legion, although I do have a handful of tanks, because they came with the kits that I bought. They're actually based around an aerial strike force, because I love the whole scene in Star Wars with the clones coming in on the gunships.
Oh, yes.
So I built them around that concept. They are my special forces that come in on the aircraft, drop in, do an objective, hold it, or bugger off, whichever one's easier.
Mm-hmm.
So they will always probably be my smallest faction within my armies. They're currently set at 2,000 points. I've got no plans to expand them at the moment, although if teeny tiny Saturn 9s come out, they will definitely get an update.
As a treat, just as a little treat.
Yeah, so they will always remain the smallest part, and they will always be themed around being able to either deep strike or come in via planes, basically. Because that's what I enjoy. I think they're cool, and I love the Space Marine gunships. They're just so cool.
Is the Fire Raptor?
So the Fire Raptor is the proper gunboat. The Storm Eagle is the transport one.
Yes,
I love those. They do very much kind of look like the gunships from Star Wars.
I was going to say, and you're hoping for that Stormbird.
I'm hoping for the Stormbird, but I've already solved that problem for now.
I know you probably solved that problem for now, but like if it gets proper rules, then we wouldn't have to use the modified rules.
Yes, so those things are great, and it gives me an excuse to. But basically, the only kits I absolutely adore in Space Marines are those flyers. So it gives me an excuse to have them.
And you can go back and watch in real time the moment when Jay realizes that this is a game that lets you take all of the planes, and the spark lights in your eyes as you're like, I can take all of my planes, and they're good in a game.
Yeah, so what I have... I think I have 9 Space Marine flyers. My Solar Auxilia has 16 transport flyers and 8 fighter craft. I have a lot of flyers.
How did you not get into Aeronautica?
Because just planes, I don't.
Yeah, okay. You know what? That's fair, actually. Yeah. Like you want to have the mix. You want to have the fun of them all kind of rolling.
That's also why I never got into Titanicus, because I do like the idea of Titans. In fairness, I hadn't become obsessed with them like I have been now. But even then, I don't think the game itself would have been that inspiring, because it's just Titans. Whereas the Legions is just, you can play with all the toys all the time.
I mean, that is the beauty of it, actually. That is the most fun part of Legions, and the epic kind of scale games, is that they allow for those grand armies. So, go on.
No, come on.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, if we're not kind of planning on expanding the Alpha Legions, Saturnine tiny versions notwithstanding, how do you kind of see them expanding, I guess, narratively in our story, in our kind of ongoing narrative that we've got going on for this kind of game, and for the factions that you've currently got?
I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm kind of I like to think that they're going to be my sort of secret little all-purpose tool to explain away changes in storylines and alliance shifts and stuff like that. So if I need to suddenly work for another team, they are my excuse to switch sides.
Yeah.
So they're kind of going to be my narrative cheat tool, basically. My skeleton key to basically interact with whatever storyline I need to be in. The only thing, to be fair, there is an expansion that is going to be coming to them relatively soon, though.
Ooh.
Which I completely forgot about until we just started talking about. And that is 2...
Would you like to put yourself on the big camera for that bit?
Yes.
Go on.
So, I am actually going to be bringing at least 2 new detachments and 2 new HQs. Well, technically 3. So, one of the HQs is going to be a psychic command squad, because I don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be adding a detachment of Alpha Legion Headhunter kill teams, which is a heresy unique unit. A unit of Lernian Terminators, because why not?
Yep.
And the twins themselves, Alpharis and Omegon. So I will be able to run both.
So there's a lot to potentially kind of unpack there. Obviously, Psyker, it makes perfect sense for you. I'm seeing a trend towards getting some snipers into the game.
Yeah, I mean, if the Headhunters didn't necessarily use a lot of snipers. They're more like special ops, close quarters fighters rather than snipers. Which, yeah, you kind of imagine that straight away, but generally that was the saboteurs.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, are the Headhunters the one with the shotguns?
No, they've got specialist bolt guns.
Oh.
Yeah. Can't remember what they're called though, but they've got specialist anti-space marine guns.
I have a load of them.
Do you?
Yeah. In 8mm scale.
So do I.
I'll send you what I've got. I've just remembered. I was looking at them and I was like, I've got these. I know these. I've seen these.
But yes, no, they're actually specialised in killing space marines.
Ah. What are the
Which is why they're part of the Alpha Legion, because it was very hush hush during the heresy that space marines aren't supposed to kill space marines.
No.
Yeah.
And
but Alpha Legion had a unit specifically for that purpose.
They're Alpha Legion, of course. They have a unit designed for killing anybody or destabilizing whatever they need to.
Yeah.
So and then the twins.
And then the twins, Alpha Iris and Omega.
And I'm guessing that's why we have our
The Linnaean Terminators.
Linnaeans? I couldn't get that word out. The Linnaean Terminators.
From the Greek Linnaean Lion, I think, is where they're actually stealing the name from. No, sorry, not Linnaean. It's the Linnaean Lion. It's the Linnaean Hydra, sorry, from the Hercules mythology.
Ah, of course. So yes, so as their bodyguard kind of unit going in, how are you envisioning kind of those two? Have you got some ideas already for those two?
I mean, I've got the models.
Okay,
I've already got models, and there's slightly different poses. I've got one that's like in the traditional like Forge World stance with the spear, and then I've got another one that's got a slightly different pose with a gun out, just so they can differentiate them nicely. As to how they'll work in game, I really have no idea yet. I haven't. I need to, because I now have to deal with 4 Primarchs in our games.
Yours counts as 1 and 2 at the same time.
True, but I'm also thinking of actually running them as 2 separate individuals.
I have seen some very good designs people have done in terms of painting one in black armor with the silver trim, and then the other one in the standard kind of blue.
Yeah,
so these give you some means of differentiation.
I'm envisioning one will be like Linnaean Terminator, the showboat, the Alpharis, and then the Omegon will actually be almost like the headhunter leader. So it's a lot more. He'll have a different skill set and rules.
Exciting. So you thought that you were done with painting tiny space marines, and yet they come back all the same.
Oh yes, well they'll always be expanded, just a lot more slowly than the rest.
So we've hit a lot of things in terms of where you can expand all of these forces, but obviously our goal is to think about what kind of we're going to be having like lots of kind of narrative games and stuff and stuff like that, where we want to be running this, I guess, in 40k kind of sense, and in the big hammer sense, it's the crusade. But for our campaigns, I'm going to be doing. What would you kind of say is going to be the best way to show off these, your force in a campaign format?
It's a good question. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to handle that yet. It's a case of whether I kind of envision them as like 4 almost separate entities and almost running like my own team.
I could honestly see that. As a system for it is, run them all as separate ones could be interesting.
Or obviously running them as just as Dracaryn, but with a few subsets thrown in there. But running them as almost like a self-contained team could be interesting, because obviously that would give me a lot of options for characters and stuff like that. It could be interesting.
I was going to say, on the note of kind of campaigns and the setting for those campaigns, campaign on Aetherion?
It could be interesting. It could be quite fun to make. It would give me a good excuse to actually make a knight castle. Which, the idea of... Because I'm a massive fan of making terrain. I probably enjoy making terrain more than painting models. Well, that's hard. But if I had the option, I'd be like, if someone paint my models, I will make terrain and I'll paint it, because I don't mind painting the terrain either. So the prospect of being able to literally make the castles that I envision on this volcanic world would be epic. So it's definitely something I would like to do, but it probably won't happen for a while.
But I mean, neither will our campaign necessarily. But I feel like Aetherion as a setting would fit very well with kind of having all of your forces on there, and actually with a lot of our forces that we're bringing, it would almost make sense that they would arrive potentially on Aetherion. So
there's definitely a lot of scope for the background that I've developed for my army being also the backdrop for the way the campaigns work could be interesting.
Yeah, and and I guess also especially if you were thinking about running kind of each of your forces as almost like separate entities which can then work together and then sometimes might not be on the same side. It would be a good way of kind of showing that tension that they might have kind of between them as well.
Yeah, I mean there is also the potential that, depending on how quickly certain team members get their armies put together, you could act as the figureheads of my individual armies, because I actually have enough armies for everyone to play.
I mean, yes, you do, and it's wild because of it. You really could. So yeah. I will say at some point when we start doing battle reports and stuff, one battle report I would definitely want to do, provided that you guys at least produce enough of an army, is to literally try and put you 3 just against me and just have this wild battle where you've got to literally face my entire Superfaction. Well, what I was actually going to say is, it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, obviously you have played far more Legions than I have, but the fact that you don't have stuff like CP to manage, it almost feels like that would work better. You could have because the problem with 2v1 games in 10th or games like Kill Team, where anything where CP is involved, it starts to get a little bit messy, because you're like, okay, do I give the side that's on their own 2 each turn, or do we have to share a pool of CP? It just gets a little bit dicey, I feel, in terms of it. Whereas because Legions has stripped all that out and it's just they do their thing, go.
Yeah, I feel like Legions does lend itself to multiplayer support a lot better. And I can definitely see it working quite well. I also don't think... There is obviously an increase in time required to play the game, the more points are involved, but I think it's a lot less drastic than it is with something like 40k. Me and Elsa played 1, 2 and 3,000 point games, and they generally still take roughly the same amount of time the 1,000 point games are a little bit quicker. The 2,000 points are okay. The 3,000 point games still aren't that much longer, and also can be done quicker than 40k.
Say no more.
Yeah, so I don't feel like even if I went up to 5,000 or 6,000 points aside, it would take that long, especially if everyone was comfortable in what they were doing. I think you could quite comfortably get through a game in an evening.
Yeah, that's really what you want. Is the number of times I've played a game of 10th or something like that, and it's gotten to round 2. Everyone's exhausted. We're just like, oh, we just want to finish it. It's why I've enjoyed playing the older editions, and Legions being very much kind of based on older editions. Just feels like it's a nicer system to work within.
Yeah, I know.
Jay, is there anything else that you would like to say before we go to our closing remarks, though, about your armies?
No, I think we've probably pretty much covered everything that's worth covering for now. We've already seen hints at the future, so I don't want to reveal anything else, because anything else I might reveal I might not do in the end. So, you did mention it, and I will say I'm not entirely against the idea of a small Admech force being introduced. I'm not saying I'm going to. But I am tempted just a little bit.
Viewers, prepare to watch him go and buy that Battle Force box. Oops, it just landed in my lap. I guess I've got to build an army again.
Yeah, no. I'm definitely going to paint everything I've currently got.
Yeah, but once you painted those, then you buy more. Would you do them as pure Mechanicus, or would you do them as Dark Mech?
No, I'd run them as normal Mechanicus, I think, because I'm already mixing a lot of other stuff,
and we kind of already have we do have an Admech player, a Dark Mech player.
We do have a Dark Mech player, so I wouldn't feel the need to do that. And even if I did, I don't think I'd do a big army of it. It would just be like a little token thing, just so that I could have some stuff in the background for the Titans to play around with.
Well, I think it was an excellent look at your forces, and I think we'll head on over to our roundtable for our roundup of today's episode.
Okay.
Thank you very much. See you there.
See you there.
And welcome back, everybody, to the round table for our roundup on today's episode. We've had a wonderful look at Jamie's various different forces, the whole Lords of Aetherion, our House Dracaryn at the top, ruling over this land, our Aetherion Auxiliary, cowering underneath them inside of their house cities, Legio Invictorum upon their forge world of Hellenius, and our Alpha Legion secretly sprinkled throughout. And where all those factions have come from, and where they're going to potentially be going. And the answer is always Ad Psychers, in every regard.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I have to say, Jay, as a force, what you have built is excellent. Very, very well tied together as well. And I feel like it's almost, from what we've kind of discussed and gone through, it's really hit the point of you can approach the hobby from two very different ways. I feel like that's the bit I really enjoyed, actually, is you did your Auxilia. You were like, I'm going to get these bashed out, I want to get them done fast, and then make a narrative that fits the paint scheme that you did. And then Dracaryn being like, I'm going to think about how I want these to look, and then I'm going to build that paint scheme to fit those. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's a miniatures game where you want to be painting up your miniatures, and just kind of like those two different approaches, I think is a really interesting, really interesting to see them both happen at the same time. So yeah, but over to you with a question. What would you say is your kind of advice for people who want to get into that kind of multi-army approach?
Honestly, my first initial piece of advice, if you're going to do it, is to really take a step back and plan out what it's going to look like and the amount of effort you're going to want to put into each of it. If you want to have something very much like you were just saying, really, the army that is going to be the most numerous, I decided needed to be as simple as possible to make it easy for myself. The bit that I knew was going to be a lot more focused, I made something a little bit more elaborate. And then the Titans were just, I could go crazy because I'm going to only do a handful of these things. So really do plan ahead, because if you didn't do what I'd done, and I'd done a more complicated scheme for the Auxilia, that army would be dead by now, because I just wouldn't want to do it. Yeah. So you do need to plan ahead. And in that sense as well, I would advise personally, for my enjoyment, is that each of those factions looks different, so that you've got something new to try or do each time. So I've got 4 very distinct, different, not just colour schemes, but ways of painting them as well. So I get to do different things each time, because it basically solves your problem, essentially, of I get bored of painting the same thing all the time. I'd never do, because once I've done a unit for that army, I'll move on to the next one for a different army. But it's still building the same faction overall.
Yeah.
And it works well for me and someone who struggles with staying on track to one army. If you're someone that is quite happy building your one army, then this is somewhat irrelevant.
But it's still fun to think about, and it's a game system. Legion's such a game system that really feels like it lends itself to that multi-factor army. Yeah. You can always think about, I could add a little bit more in here, and it's so easy to do.
Yeah, you don't have to go. You don't have to go as crazy as we do and build entire armies. You could just build a handful of extra units. Yeah, the odd Titan, because it's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you are doing, and this is an absolute key thing to take away in any game system that you're playing. If you're not playing the game competitively, don't stress about the fact that the rule says you have to match this exact point percentage in order to take this force. If you and the person that you're playing against agree across the table, because you're both people that are sat on either side of the table, agree that this is the rule, can I do this? It fits within the points. It might not be the exact percentages that we need to do, but it fits within the points. Do we both agree? Cool, let's do something fun. And I think that's a nice thing with something where you can do a multi-factor army and approach it the way that you want to. So but over to you, all our viewers, with a question. Do you have a multi-faction army in either Legions or 10th or in any other game system? And how do you think about your kind of faction interactions? Are they staunch battle brothers that would never betray, or are they a collection of people that are just about hanging on by threads of trust before they go and stab each other in the back? What's the vibe of your force? But yeah, I think this is a good point to wrap us all off and wrap it all up and say, please remember to do our standard YouTube pleasantries. Remember to like, subscribe, and give us a follow on all those socials, review our episodes and things like that. We can be found on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and soon back on Twitch.
Should be soon. To be fair, by the time this goes out, we should be well and truly back on schedule.
Nice. Yep. Get it back on there and come watch definitely J Live. Maybe a little bit of L, maybe a little bit of me. I've now got a nice new setup. I should probably be able to get a little bit more done. And as always, in regards to our Tankard Talk, we like looking at our models, but we do see them all the time. We do share pictures with each other. So please send us in your stuff. We always love to see new models made by the community, made by the people that watch this. Drop it to us on whatever social media outlet you can find, and we will respond to them. And yeah, I think this is a good point to sign off. And I have been your guest host for today, John, and I have been joined by
Jay.
Jay.
And he's done it again, pointing in the right direction. I hate you.
But thank you all from us here at the Mead Hall. And the last thing to say is goodbye.
Bye-bye.